I gotta wait. How long I gotta wait for a press record?
Go.
Welcome to the share, where Miss Dream always has a story.
I'm Dream, a black woman with many beautiful interconnecting identities. A few I will name at this moment as we get started on this podcast journey together. A Bostonian, born and raised in the inner city, Dorchester and Roxbury neighborhoods, to a teenage single mother who has my whole heart. An educator, I've been working with youth and children since my teenage years, and formally, I have been teaching almost a decade now. That's wild to think about. An entrepreneur, I am the founder of The Chair, a black and brown centered tech platform dedicated to supporting people on their hair journey, where you can design hair boards, connect to hairstylists, and share hair care tips for a more joyous experience. I have a workable site, my prototype. It took me 2 years to build, and now I'm on this adventure that you're currently on with me. My goal for this podcast is to share stories, black stories, educator stories, entrepreneurship stories, and hair stories. I want you to leave each episode with the opportunity to gain new insight, just a glimpse into my world or the worlds that are featured on my podcasts, a little chuckle during your day or night, possibly a little anger to encourage you to advocate for justice, and hope to continue learning and dreaming. So come in and listen to the beautiful voices in the chair as they share their stories, starting with me.
Where we share stories in the chair.
Hello, beautiful people. This is Steve. Steve, can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, beautiful people. This is Steve Derazinski, former adjunct faculty at Babson, teaching various new venture creation courses. I have a background in engineering and MBA, and I've been starting up companies and mentoring people to start up companies in the world of entrepreneurship in the greater Boston area for a long time. We don't need to say how long. More than a few decades.
When thinking about building the platform, when you were asking questions, I was like, okay, how do I talk about the hair journey in a way that makes sense to someone who doesn't know anything about this world? Because a lot of the questions, just like we were talking about earlier, a lot of these questions don't necessarily work when people are like, okay, who is the target market for this platform? And if they're like, no, who is the first? And I'm like, well, the 24-year-old black woman who has locks and the 45-year-old trans drag queen who wears wigs, they're both my target market. And being able to describe that, but people are like, no, you need to choose one. And I'm like, this is when the complexity of identity and race all affect why I've built this platform. So all of those niche markets, as people would call them, would be able to come together to be able to have these conversations all at once. Because you said this to me, you were like, what is the value of your platform? What are you trying to do? And being able to be like, well, my value is to create a space where people fall in love over and over again is important to me, is the core of why I'm building a platform to support people on their hair journey. Being like, yes, you're frustrated. You can be frustrated, but you don't have to hate it every day. You can be frustrated and still have love for it. So when people talk about their hair journey, they talk about how much they love it, and then they talk about the stress of it. They talk about the annoyances. They talk about the things that they wish they had and what they want. But it always comes back to, I love it, or I am on the road to loving it. Which is why I'm building the chair in the first place. And landing on the chair, it felt so simple, but then it also felt so beautiful because everybody has that memory of the first time they were getting their hair done in a chair. And the chair doesn't necessarily have to be a kitchen chair. It could be a salon chair. It could be the couch. It could be the bed. It could be a pillow. It could be the floor. Like, everybody has that memory. And so when it comes to the chair, being able to sit in a chair and talk about your life story share your stories. That is what happens in a salon when you're sitting
Yep.
together. You are falling in love with yourself. You are falling in love with your hairdresser over and over again. You are falling in love with the people in the salon. That is what's happening when you're in the chair.
Yeah. So I've had a lot of. Can we change gears into entrepreneurship for a second? I've had a lot of discussions about focus and focal markets and stuff. And the reasoning, usually it's a very simple comment, like you need to pick one, you need to focus on one. That's fine. That's a valid comment. You have limited resources, you need to focus them on one area where you can get traction. But I also find that that's used too often, and that when you're in the exploration, or if you're in the journey mode, or if you're building a platform that addresses a lot of people, you do want to have a broad market. Now the challenge, of course, becomes, well, how much traction have you made? Well, I'm working on these 18 different markets, so I really don't have any traction in any one, because I've been spending so much time on. If that becomes the case, then it's like, okay, well, just pick one to get started with. You can keep the other 17, but pick one that you really want to start focusing on and getting a lot of interviews on and get people interested in, because then you'll find that it builds on itself, and then it becomes a self-fulfilling kind of area. So when people say pick one, I think it's kind of like, which one are you going to start with, or which one are you going to focus on first, or which two are you going to focus on, or which three are you going to focus on? Even when I say it like that, right? Like, which three are you going to focus on? It's like, well, you have to pick one to focus on, right? You're not focusing on three. You got to focus on one. So, anyways, I just wanted to mention that, because I don't want you to think like I pick one and that means the other ones are thrown away. No, it's more like you're just starting with one.
Where we share stories in the chair.
Look, it's my commercial. We will be right back.
It's more than just a bad hair day. It's a journey. Finding the right hairstyle isn't easy, nor is finding the right stylist or the right products. Looking in every corner of the web gets messy, overwhelming, and exhausting. All the ads, the articles, the products, the videos. It shouldn't be this hard, but it is. And now, it isn't. The Chair. A black and brown centered platform where you can design hair boards, connect to hairstylists, and share hair care tips for a new joyful path on your hair journey. Avoid the clutter, save yourself hours, months, and even years of research and poor trial and error. Everything you need and only what you need is in one place. Hair boards made by people like you, for you. Find the right products, the right people, the right answers for you, stress-free. Join the Chair community and make every day a great hair day. When you share your pain, you allow others to help you. And when you share your success, you help others get theirs. Lean on the Chair. We got you. No stress, no strife. In the chair. The chair. The chair. All right.
Oh, and if you're interested to learn more about my experiences as a Black woman and educator in Guangzhou, China, I wrote my first ebook titled Nowhere and Everywhere, Captured Emotions of a Beautifully Broken Love Story. It is on lulu.com. Take a read and see some beautiful photography of mine. Enjoy the rest of the show.
The chair.
Last question. For those who are entering into the field of entrepreneurship, if you had to give them 3 pieces of advice, what would you give them?
3 pieces of advice. The most important thing is to be an expert in the market, in your market, in the market that you know. And to know the people in that market and their desires and frustrations and profiles better than anyone else. A lot of people think they need to have an invention or some new fangled tool or something. Really, it's about understanding the customers. And if you know that, then you can bring that to a lot of a lot of areas. And that's kind of what I saw in you, Dream.
Mm.
You're like, this is the area, I know this market, I know these people, this is where I want to spend my time and really help them in their journeys. 3 pieces of advice. Oh, geez. Oh, don't be afraid to pivot, but don't pivot willy-nilly. Like, you got to give it a serious try in one direction. It's so easy to just pivot your way to oblivion. It's kind of the same way of not having focus, right? It's like, well, that didn't work. Well, I only tried it for 5 minutes. So let me pivot. Well, that didn't work. Let's try it for 5 minutes. Does that pivot? So there has to be a balance between kind of focus and get execution and see what happens, and then taking a step back and saying, okay, that didn't work. Time to change gears. But what did we learn, right? And what did we know from that? And probably the third bit of advice is that you learn so much more by failing than you do by success.
Mm.
I don't know if that's advice or just a comment, but and I know no one likes to fail, and I really hate that word. But if something didn't work out, there's a ton of lessons to be mined from that. And a lot of people ignore that because they're like, oh, it failed. Forget it. They just want to walk away from it because their ego is bruised. I would strongly suggest leaning into whatever didn't work out and try and divine what didn't work out and how you could change it and tweak it. I swear the biggest challenge in a lot of this stuff is ego.
Mm.
It's like, if you put, because you have to put something out there, right? You gotta put something out there. You gotta try. You gotta promote something. You gotta say, I'm doing this, and put a stake in the ground. And when you do that, you're putting your ego out there, right? You're making a stand. And then if it doesn't work out, you gotta sort of suck it up a little bit, and that's really hard for 99% of the population. So recognizing that, and I don't, there's a lot of things in life where you don't really get good at it. You just sort of scar over and you get used to it. So I think that's one of the things. It's like no one's actually really good at failing. They just are kind of get used to it, and they like recognize like, oh, this isn't working out, and they just get better at realizing when it's not working out and when they can change gears and get better at figuring out what will work. So
Yeah. When I first started, man, you were just asking me a ton of questions. You're like, okay, you need to go look at this. You need to go research this. You need to figure this out. And then I would find more mentors who would just be like, hey, have you read this? Have you looked into this? And then it was like, okay, you need to talk to people. Okay, you need to try a pitch competition. Okay, you need to apply to these things. And then when I started getting denied over and over again, I was like, oh no, this isn't it. And and you would say, being like, all right, well, you just need to think about it from a different perspective. And I'm like, why is this guy so cheery? And you were like, you'll figure it out. You'll figure it out. And I think like I've always appreciated how you have made failure just seem so normal and so natural that you're like, well, you built this thing from scratch that does not exist, Dream. So if people don't understand it, you just got to go back and think about it a little more, and just keep iterating over and over again. And I've taken that advice to heart, truly. So
Good. Well, I'm glad.
So thank you.
Sure. If I can just sort of tie on to that, there's one thing. I've got 3 kids, 2 in college, 1 in high school, going into high school. And there's one thing that I've always wanted about their educational experience from their school, which is, and I don't think any school provides this because of the giving grades, but I really just want, and maybe summer arts or summer camps do this, a comfortable place to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
If that were the case for every kid, like, here, try this. And, oh, by the way, I don't know what the magic is, but if there's some magic pixie dust where every kid is comfortable making a mistake, then let the learning blossom. If you could set that up where it's like, there's some people trying to do it, like, we celebrate our mistakes, we celebrate our errors, but as soon as you put that name on it, that label on it, then it's like, this is the only, what is it? The other phrase is like, the only failure is not trying, right? So it's like, yeah, if you're afraid to fail, you're not going to try. So you got to be comfortable making mistakes and create an environment where it's like, it's okay to experiment. And I guess the only way I've been able to do that is to just lead by example, to be like, oh, let's try this. Oh, whoop, didn't work. Okay, let's adjust and change this. And having plenty of oops opportunities and stuff. I think that's why, what is it? There's a place at the Media Lab called Lifelong Kindergarten. And I think that's probably why they call it that, because it's like, You remember being in kindergarten, you're like, yeah, let's try this. Yeah, let's try that. And you didn't really have the idea of, oh, you screwed that up. Shame on you, or you failed at that. There was none of that. It was just kind of like, oh, let's try this. Hey, this is fun. Hey, let's keep doing this. I think that they're trying to get at that essence of like just being able to experiment and play around without any worry about you did it right, you did it wrong, that kind of stuff, which I think is, anyways, that's another conversation about the repercussions of excessive grading and basing your life's journey based on what kind of grade points you can get. But now that's a privileged comment, right?
Yes. And I think it's true. I think about hearing the phrase fail faster in business school. And I was like, something's wrong with these people here. Why do they keep telling us to fail faster? And the stress I had around that phrase I learned that fail faster really just meant continue to experiment, continue to explore. And the fact that I don't have a coding background or a CS background or engineering background, and I'm building from something from scratch where I have to find people who will help me. I have to be able to explain my vision. I have to draw it out. I have to write it out. I have to do all these things. And so when it doesn't work, I have to go back to the whiteboard and try again. I have to try these different PowerPoints to explain. And I remember at the beginning when it was just an idea and I was talking about it and people were like, I don't get it. I need to see it. So then I'm building it and they're like, okay, I see it. How do you use it? So then it becomes, well, I didn't see it. Now I see it. Now you need to use it. Now I built it. Now it's like, okay, well, you built it. I see it and it works, but where are the people? So I felt like there's always a question or another step I have to do. But even before getting here, it was, well, if I can't see it, then it can't be real. So then it became me just really learning how to be like, well, if someone can't see the vision, it does not mean that my vision isn't real or isn't truthful to me. It's that I just need to be able to explain it better and also find the right audience. Because explaining this hair platform, which I was doing at the beginning to a lot of white women, they were like, I don't know, this is really not an issue. And I was like, what are you talking about? Right? And then when I went into my target audience, talking to all these black people, all these black women at the beginning, they're like, yes. And our conversation was 2 minutes long instead of me being 45 minutes and being like, okay, now it's, okay, how can I make them see it? Because they already see the problem. So it became this. Now I'm at a space where I'm like, okay, I have it. It's real. It's a prototype. Now I'm just working to find funding and also build that community to be like, I did it.
Yep. Well, there's the ultimate test, which is, have you heard the phrase cashectomy? I think I probably have told you this before.
No, I haven't heard that one.
Get to the point where people want to reach into their wallet and pull out money for your product.
Oh, yes.
Willingness to pay, it's sometimes called cashectomy. I like that phrase because there's another quick story called Wizard of Oz product launch. And it has to do with, are you familiar with those vending machines that vend AirPods and power chargers and stuff?
Yes.
Yeah. So when they launched that product, they were like, hey, somebody had this idea. And they're like, oh, yeah, okay, let's test it out. And so, of course, you would think normally you'd be like, okay, let's get a vending machine, put the packaging in there. Let's make sure the packages come out with the little squirrely spiral thing, pushes the packages out in the right thing. We vend the right product and all that stuff. No, they didn't do any of that. They just had a vending machine with pictures of all the products in the thing. And you put your credit card in and you press the button to get it. And then a guy would come out from behind the curtain who's been sitting there with a bunch of products, on the shelf, would receive your order, see that the credit card went through, and would walk out from behind the curtain and physically hand you the product. There's a lot of like one person sitting around waiting for people to buy it, but they were able to collect a ton of data and figure out if people would actually be willing to use it. And they found the right places to put the machines and which product offerings and which price points to use, using that Wizard of Oz strategy before they even bothered developing the actual vending machine technology. But they had a lot better information before they spent the money and spent the investment time on creating that. So there's a lot of fun things. And there's another old strategy called dry product launch. And they used to do this all the time in the olden days when they had classifieds ads in the back of magazines. There was all kinds of products you could buy, and you could send in your check, or you could call an 800 number and give me your credit card number. And they always would say like 6 to 8 weeks of delivery. Well, there's several times when people would place orders, but you would never get the product because the product didn't even exist. And it was really just a test to see, would people want to buy this? And it turns out it's not illegal to do that, but it is illegal to cash your check if you don't have the product. So they would do that just to like collect data and then return your check. It would say like, sorry, the product's been canceled or whatever. We can't produce it. But it gave the company that was promoting it a lot of information about actual customers actually buying it, not fake, not pretend. Like, would you buy this? Sure, why not? I'm your friend. I don't want to make you mad, so I'm going to say yes to you, right? Or would you actually buy it? Like, yeah, here's my credit card number. Give me that. When is it coming? That was the real test.
Well, Steve, thank you so much for sitting in the chair and sharing your stories. I truly appreciate you taking the time out.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate all your nice comments about the class. You remember a lot more about it than I do. So I'm going to have to call you in to be a TA the next time I teach the class, whenever that be.
Welcome to the chair, where Miss Dream always has a story.
Thank you for listening to an episode of The Chair. I, of course, would love your continued support. Let me know what you think of this episode by doing all the things. Subscribe, comment, and come back next week, every week. Enjoy the rest of your beautiful day. Or if you are like me, enjoy that moonlight and that one star under all your city lights. Love you. Talk to you later.
The chair.
How long I gotta wait for a press record?
Go.
We support her. Shit.
Do your...
Welcome to the chair, where Miss Dream always has a story. Where we share